Hello, and welcome to this short 20-minute presentation on delicious decoctions. My name is Sue Horning, and I'm a clinical herbal therapist. And I'm here today on Galiano Island, which is the ceded territories of the Wet'suwet'en and Penobscot peoples. And I'm very proud to be presenting today on one of my favorite herbal preparations, decoctions. And herbal preparations are anything that we would offer that contains the use of herbal medicine. And decoctions are one of the most primary ways of offering plant medicine in a very consumable and hydrolyzed form. So decoctions are usually a little different than infusions. Infusions, we just pour hot water to make tea, which is one of my favorite ways to extract leaf and flower. But decoctions are a little bit stronger, a little bit of a richer extraction. And we usually use it for things that are harder to extract. So things like roots and barks, berries extract very well by decoction, anything that extracts better with heat, which most things do. The only caution that you want to have with decoctions is that you're not killing anything with the heat. So, you want to be careful with how long you're boiling or how high your heat is to be cautious of destroying things that the plants might have to offer. Especially things like mucilage, so marshmallow root or slippery elm or those kinds of plants where we really want that slippery form of mucilage are better cold infused or extracted overnight to concentrate. Other things that you might not want to apply heat to include volatile oils. Volatile oils are volatile, so they're going to go easily into a gas form, and so we lose them by adding heat. So things like fennel or even chamomile, anything that we're trying to capture the volatile oils in, we would probably lose them with heat. So being cautious about what you're decocting, why you're decocting it, and knowing what you're trying to get out of it is a really important starting point. So get to know your herbs and what you're using them for and experiment a little bit. But generally, woody stems, roots, barks, berries, and mushrooms are great things to put in a pot and bring to a boil and simmer. And we're going to use a little bit of heat. I'm going to make a decoction today. One of my favorite recipes. I call this Dao cacao because I love chocolate. I love the effects of cacao, and I give this quite often as a nice coffee substitute, which can be really great for lots of different things, especially if you drink too much coffee. You might just sub in a cup of this delicious Dao cacao instead to reduce how much coffee you're drinking. I did read somewhere that coffee can contribute to fibroids, and I have noticed that substituting in this formula can be really great for hormonal things and hormonal imbalances. So something to think about as you're making your decoctions is, what is your therapeutic goal? Why are you making it? And how can you make it palatable and delicious that people will actually take it? One of the greatest challenges, I think, of giving herbal preparations is people not taking them or not wanting to if they taste terrible. I just want to refer you also to Owen's talk from 2021. He did a great talk on herbal soups and broths, which I really recommend that you watch if you can get back to the Herb Conference archives. He talked about making herbal soups and broths and combining herbs with food. And so that's a really great video, great talk, great demonstration to actually figure out how to use herbal soups and broths, which are a great form of decoction also. So I'm going to make today my favorite drink, one of my favorite drinks, Dao cacao. And I'm going to start just with a pot here. I've got a pot in front of me. And I'm going to start by adding water to it. So we want to add our herbs to cold water so that when we are creating our decoction, we get all of the constituents at every heat level. So I'm going to measure out about 3 cups of water. And to this, I'm going to add 6 teaspoons of herbs. And so it's kind of dependent on what you're making, how much water you want to use. Usually, 1 teaspoon per cup is sort of minimum, and 2 teaspoons per cup, you're going to get a little bit more of a rich extraction. So my recipe here is, of course, chocolate. I use powdered and dried herbs. So when we're using powdered and dried herbs, the recipe is about 1 teaspoon per cup. But if you were using a fresh plant, so for example, if you had fresh ginger as opposed to dried ginger, you would want to make allowances for the water quantity that's in the plant already. So you'd want to reduce your water by about half. So if this was fresh ginger that I was putting in, I might put in half a cup of water per teaspoon of fresh ginger. I'm going to add to this chocolate some of this beautiful shatavari root, which combines really beautifully with ashwagandha, withania. So these two herbs, you know, I learned in Ayurveda, they have a good collaborative effect. They're very, very good for adaptogens, as an adaptogen to help with stress. I'm going to add something sweet to make it more palatable. So this is my licorice root going in. And then I've got a medicinal plant here, Dangoy, which is Angelica chinensis, which is Chinese Angelica. I've also experimented here with European Angelica, which is an amazing warming bitter. Chinese Angelica just has this really beautiful maple syrup-like flavor that I love. So I am going to put that in. And then these two, which I think are kind of a nice coffee substitute. This is roasted chicory root and roasted dandelion roots. We get that lovely effect on the liver, and we get this beautiful flavor. I mean, the roasted roots really have a beautiful flavor to them. Some people like to use reishi. You know, everybody's different with their taste, so you got to experiment a little bit. So there we go. I've got 6 teaspoons of my dried herb in my pot. Give it a stir. And I'm going to put on my burner to a nice medium-high heat. So I want to bring it to the boil. So I am going to turn it on and place a lid on it. Okay. Now, if you are covering your herbal decoction, you're going to keep some of the gases in. So if you do have something in there that's got volatile oils, that will contain it a little bit. I always cover my decoctions just to keep that heat really central. And then I don't want to overheat them or overboil them. So just be really careful when you are heating up your decoction, especially from the beginning. Heat it up slowly to a boiling point and then turn it right down to a simmer. We don't want to burn our herbs at any point. We don't want to kill the plant. We just want to extract it into the water. So I'm going to let this simmer for a little bit. I'm going to bring it to the boil. I'm watching it very closely, and then I'm going to turn it down and leave it for about 15 to 20 minutes. Now, if I have something that is harder to extract, or if I come across a really, really hard root, like I don't know if you've ever tried working with wild yam root, it doesn't taste very good. But if you wanted to extract something that's really hard and difficult, you can soak it overnight. And so just like nuts and seeds or other foods, you can soak herbs to begin their extraction and to soften them up a little bit before you decoct them. And this can be a great starting point to get the most out of them. Now, once I've made this decoction, I'm going to have to drink it within a couple of days. So I've got about 3 cups here. I'm probably going to drink half a cup a couple times a day, maybe. And so it will last in the refrigerator for a day or 2, but not longer than that. So once you do extract your herbs in water, you want to make sure that they're not going to spoil. So keeping them in the fridge is really important if you're going to use them. I quite often will just strain them and put them in, you know, a bottle, a milk bottle is what I use to preserve it. And, you know, you can add a fat. So this is quite an important part of extracting herbs. If you add a fat to them, they're much more digestible. They're easier to absorb if you add a fat to them. If you prefer not to be consuming dairy, you can add coconut milk, which is one of my favorite, or coconut cream. You can buy it in tins and just add in maybe about a tablespoon per cup, or depending how creamy you like it. You know, maybe for this 3 cups, I would put another half a cup of coconut cream in. You can also use milk. I think milk is a great fat. Ayurveda always uses milk in a lot of their extractions. So using actual dairy milk or cream is really lovely. I actually just bought some eggnog recently, which is really delicious, and I've been adding that in, and it adds a little bit of a sweet kick as well to your decocted drinks. And you can fool around with flavors and different things that you're adding in. Berries work really, really great in decoctions. You can use dried fruits. You can use fresh fruits. Just be careful with your water content because they're going to have more water. So you want to reduce how much water you're adding if you're using fresh berries or fresh fruit. But that can be a really nice way to sweeten things and get them tasting really delicious. Mushrooms, lion's mane mushroom tastes amazing. If you can extract lion's mane mushroom and taste it, it's a beautiful sweet herb. I've powdered lion's mane mushroom and added that into decoctions quite successfully. The other thing that decoctions work really well in is added back into tincture. So that is one way of preserving them, is to add them back into an ethanol component. So we want it to be at least 30% ethanol. If you're going to add ethanol into your decoction to preserve it on the shelf, i.e. a tincture, you might as well extract the plant first in the alcohol to extract all the things that you can pull out of it using an organic solvent, and then add in the menstruum from your decoction. And the total volume needs to be at least 30% ethanol. So do your calculations there and just make sure that you have something that is shelf stable if you want to store it that way. That's called a dual extraction. So if you are dual extracting a plant, you're going to macerate it in alcohol first. Make sure you use a high enough concentration alcohol that when you dilute it with your decoction, it's going to come back up to that 30% at least. One of the problems with that is that sometimes you'll get a little bit of the albumin quantity. So I don't know if you can see it here, but sometimes there's little floaties in there. This is my lion's mane tincture. And so they'll separate. So you'll see in the bottom of your jar, you see kind of like a separated part, which is the decoction. And then you see the alcohol sort of sitting on top. And one of my favorite solutions for that is just to add some glycerin. So glycerin has this wonderful way of emulsifying the two together and holding whatever was in your decoction in suspension with the alcohol, and will help preserve it longer. Glycerin is also a solvent, and it's not a very good extractor. It does hold things in suspension, so it is an amazing way to preserve your decoctions if you're going to do that. Syrups also are a great way to preserve a decoction. So if I was making a sweet syrup, or I wanted to have something that was really palatable, kids love syrups. Everybody loves syrups, actually. You can add syrups to Perrier water and get all fancy with different flavored syrups. And you want to really reduce your decoction before adding in your sugar, because you're going to add about equal parts of sugar, sometimes 1 to 2. Using white granulated sugar is usually best to make sure that you have a pure formula. White granulated sugar just has this way of going to its saturation point very easily and readily. So if you had 1 cup of your decoction, a nice concentrated decoction, maybe this one, which I started with 3 cups, if I could reduce it down, boil it down until it was about 1 cup or 1.5 cups, and then I would add an equal quantity, 1.5 to 3 cups of sugar to it, and then melt it down, stir it, strain it, and then I freeze it. So you can freeze a syrup quite easily, and that will help it last a little bit longer. But syrups don't last terribly long, especially with decoction. So just be really careful about spoilage with syrups. You want to smell them, check the surface to make sure that they have not gone bad, and try to keep bacteria from getting in there. Like, don't drink straight from the bottle of your syrup. If you've got elderberry syrup in there, try to pour it out. So keeping syrups lasting a long time is not easy to do, but it can be done. And if you don't want to use sugar, you can use honey. Equal parts honey works great. If you've got a good supply of honey, you can do 1 to 1. So 1 part decoction, if you've got a concentrated cup of your decoction, to 1 cup of honey, and you mix those together, you can have a really lovely syrup, and those can be added to different drinks. It's a great way to pack a bunch of herbs into something that you're consuming really easily. So yeah, I was looking at my list of herbs that you can decoct, and I realized I left ginseng off there. So ginseng is a really nice one that you can throw in a decoction. The red ginseng or hot ginseng, Chinese ginseng, there's Japanese ginseng, American ginseng, Quinquefolium is my favorite. It's an amazing adaptogen. It works really, really well for lots of different things. Siberian ginseng, which is a really powerful adrenal trophorestorative and great energizer. I teach yoga and I sometimes just need that little kick from the Siberian ginseng, and taking a decoction or a dual extraction of Siberian ginseng is an amazing way to support with stress and endurance, especially physical. It's been a really great plant for me. So mushrooms are also really, really well extracted because the beta glucans, the polysaccharides that we want out of mushrooms that are immune boosting and immune enhancing, are water soluble. So boiling mushrooms is a great way to extract mushrooms. Having said that, mushroom broths are wonderful and nutritious. That's just an extraction, a decoction of mushrooms, which can be a really great way to get all the nutrients out of plants. And as we know, herbal medicine is the midpoint between medicine and food. And so if you think about herbal soups and broths and putting mushrooms in your broths, this is the perfect midpoint, the perfect way to get lots of really good medicinal value out of your herbs. And then just a little note on mushrooms, if you're decocting mushrooms, there are a lot of products out there that are dehydrated decoctions. So that would just mean that the plant has been boiled and then reduced to a powder. So freeze dried or had all of the water taken out of it. And it makes this really beautiful, sweet mushroom powder, which you can buy. So there's some really great products on the market that are dehydrated mushroom powders. But just a word of caution about powders. Powders can hide all kinds of additives and different things in them. So just make sure that you're buying a quality dehydrated mushroom powder, and they work really well and they taste really great. So adding a teaspoon of dried mushroom powder, which has already been decocted, you could even add it to cold water because it's already been extracted. You just hydrolyze it and drink it. So it's a really nice way to get mushrooms. But if you have whole mushrooms or a dried mushroom extract, shiitake, maitake, any of the mushrooms can be just put in a pot, just like we just did, brought to a boil and simmered, and you're going to get into that water all of the great immune supporting polysaccharides, all the great things out of mushrooms that you want. So heat is a powerful way to boost the extraction process. So, when we do heat things, we get a stronger extract. So just being mindful and recognizing that what you're going to extract out of these roots and barks is going to maybe be more powerful medicine than what you might get out of an infusion of water. So just being aware of what you're extracting, why you're extracting it, what your therapeutic goal is with the herbs. To make it delicious, there's a few little secret things that I like to add. There are no secrets, but making it taste great means that it will be more likely to be consumed. So I like to use cinnamon. Nutmeg, I've had really good success with nutmeg. Nutmeg has a beautiful flavor, especially in the winter months. It's very, very warming. It helps with sleep. Licorice root, which of course is very sweet. I do add to my decoctions as a root. It's really sweet though, so just be careful with it. You don't need very much. I've got a full teaspoon in this decoction, so it's going to be quite a sweet extract. And then I'm going to add cream or milk to it. Turmeric is one of my absolute favorites. Of course, if you haven't heard of golden milk is just a decoction of turmeric combined with flavoring agents, a little bit of black pepper to help it absorb, and you can add all kinds of different things. I make a golden immunity with ashwagandha and astragalus, and I put a little bit of clove in it, which I really like, and you can play around with flavoring a turmeric drink, and it's highly anti-inflammatory, great for healing up the gut, all kinds of really good qualities to turmeric that you can look up and read about and get to know. And golden milk is probably one of the best decoctions out there for herbal decoctions go. And then I just want to mention this book by Dr. Marciano. Marissa wrote this book, and she's got all of the monographs in here for plants, and they do have really good dosages in here. She's got all the dosages and decoctions in here, which I find really helpful. If you're confused about dosage and therapeutic dose, and you want to make sure that you get enough plant in your decoctions to be medicinally valuable, just make sure you look it up and find out exactly how much you need, and then do your calculations so that you're taking enough of your decoction to deliver that medicinal component. So this has come to a boil. I'm just going to turn it down. turning it down, and I'm going to leave this for about another 15 or 20 minutes and just put it on a really low heat, low simmer. And one of the great things about simmering something on low is that some of the water is going to automatically evaporate. We want to evaporate at least a quarter to a half of the water volume that I added from the beginning in order to concentrate our decoctions down to a much more a higher strength. And then you can preserve them. Like I said, you can put them in the fridge for a couple days, but most importantly, consume your decoctions and enjoy them. They can be a really powerful way. You can use soups and broths, powerful ways to deliver herbal preparations, and they can be delicious and nutritious. So get your berries, get your granulated sugar, get your honey out, and start to figure out this really, really excellent and affordable way to get more herbs into your diet and into your clients' day-to-day life. And I hope you enjoyed my talk today. My name is Sue, and my website, unityherbals.ca. You can always reach me at sue@unityherbals.ca, and I would love to hear from you. I am a practicing herbalist here on Galliano, and I am looking forward to hearing all of the incredible speakers at this year's conference. This conference has been an amazing source of education, and there's some really, really powerful and professional people who present here. So I'm really grateful to be a part of it. And I hope we'll see you again soon. Thanks for listening.